Hello, everybody. It's the Gin and Tonic show. It's Sunday. It's the 7th of December, 2014. And I've just been notified that Klingshaw can't join us today. He says the internet is broken, so he can't connect to anything. So I'm terribly sorry. If you want any kind of historical facts or deep insights into the texts of Islam, nope, not today. Today is just going to be platitudes and like normal stuff about Islam. So this is the Gin and Tonic show. So if you want to join us, just go to YouTube, go to the Gin and Tonic show, click on the About link or rider or button or whatever you want to call it. And then you will find there in the chat a link, which I'm going to put there just now. And then you can join in, ask questions, make comments, make suggestions, or do whatever you want to if it's in connection with Islam, preferably. So this is the Gin and Tonic show. We are an atheist show. In other words, we don't have an agenda. We don't have anything to sell. We don't want anybody to lose their faith and become something else or anything like that. We're just people who know a little bit about Islam, and we're just providing a platform for other people to either learn or to suggest something or to comment on Islam. So what we do is talk about Islam not as a right-wing organization would, in other words, only slamming it. I always try and find positive things about Islam. I also try and try and see things which I can find which are beneficial in Islam. There's not many things, but they do exist. So what we're going to be talking about today is let me first do the definitions. Let me first do it the normal way, that just to make this 100% sure, because still people do not understand that an atheist does not have an opinion on science, an opinion on the weather, an opinion on morality, an opinion on anything. The only thing the atheist does is not believe. And that is regarding gods. And that is it. If somebody says, yeah, but the atheist also says that science and evolution and blah. No, that's not the atheist speaking. That's the naturalist. That's the personality. That's the scientist. That's the rational thinker. That's the skeptic. That's the whatever you want to call it. But it's not the atheist. All right. So labeling somebody an atheist who says something about music is stupid. Just like a dragonist only has one point of view, and that is the lack of belief that dragons exist. It's not a worldview. I mean, an dragonist, somebody who does not believe dragons exist, does not get up in the morning, oh goodness, how am I going to get through the day without dragons? It does not happen that way. So this is what makes us atheists. We don't believe that there is sufficient evidence for the existence of gods. Now, we talk about Islam, and we don't see Islam as just another religion. No, because religion is something that is spiritual, that tells you, okay, if you do this and do this, then you go to heaven. A religion does not tell you that you inherit X% if this and these, or these and these conditions are met. That is something that is strictly a portion or part of a state. And that is what Islam also is. It's a socio-political system, a socio-economic system. It's an ideology. It's a political ideology. And on top of that, a worldview, a way of life, and a religion which determines these other elements. So like the political ideology, I mean, we see this every day. Boko Haram is trying to start a state. Daesh is trying to start a state based on Islam. So nobody can tell me that Islam is just another religion, because you can't use a religion to found a state. You need to have the political element as being part of it. So the whole thing is based on the Quran. And because the Quran is so vague and ambiguous, the interpretation of secondary texts, the Sunnah. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to explain what Islam is. We're trying to look at the contents, and we're trying to make other people understand what it says and what it does not say, and trying to put this into a historical context. Because you can't just see Islam as a thing that happened. It didn't pop into existence the way that people normally say. No, it doesn't. It didn't. It is something that happened slowly, gradually, over centuries, where people collected things that, I mean, they were in an environment where Jews and Christians were giving them spiritual guidance, and they thought, well, we can have a more Arabic flavor. And then it was used politically, all right? And then this is how Islam then came about, and then it spread, and it wasn't actually intended to be part of the, well, let's call it the environment. It's like 1,000 years later. I don't think that was actually the plan. Anyway, it has survived, and that's why we're talking about it here. So, what am I going to talk about now? Well, there's a couple of things. Like, for example, the all right, we all know that there are different groups within Islam, all right? So we know that there's Sunnis, there's Shias, and then within those there's other groups. So you have hundreds, and then you have thousands of groups within these groupings. And one of the biggest is the Shias, and the Shias are the ones who are the majority in Iran. And there you have a problem that Iranian ayatollahs are trying to, create a nuclear program. And this is still being, they're still fighting about this. They're still saying, well, we want a nuclear program. And when being asked to open their program and let other people see what it is that they are doing, because they're always claiming that everything is peaceful and everything is only for energy purposes. And then when somebody says, well, can you prove this? Well, no, it's none of your business. So there's a suspicion that Iran is actually creating nuclear weapons, and because it is not exactly a stable government, there's a lot of concern what would happen if Iran, who has been threatening, for example, to throw nuclear bombs at Israel, what would happen if this would actually be the case. So there's a lot of concern there, and people are trying to, envisage a situation where Iran does have nuclear weapons, what would happen, and this is why they're trying to stop them. So this is something that is ongoing, and it has been ongoing for I don't know how many years, and Iran is still playing games. Now, because they didn't want to open it, United Nations said, well, they're going to impose sanctions until you open your nuclear program to inspection. Then they said, well, yeah, of course you can, no problem, you can come and take a look. Just lift the sanctions. They said, no, we prefer that we take a look first and then we lift the sanctions. Well, yeah, but actually today is not a good day. And then it was next year, and they're still playing the same game, right? And I don't know why. So Iran is still playing games. Boko Haram and Daesh continue killing, but will ignore the gore. And what happened in Yemen now with all the violence there. This is not what we are about, okay? We're not here to sensationalize. We're not here to capitalize on what stupid Muslims are doing in some part of the world. What I find more interesting is that a small city, which is just west of New York, they received an application for a big mosque. And there were Muslims who said, well, we want to build a mosque here, and we're generating all the funding, and this was declined with the explanation that what they call houses of worship need to be built on major roads and not on residential roads where parking represents a problem and noise and blah, blah, blah. So they're trying to and keep these mega churches and all these places of worship, or houses of worship as they call them, a little bit outside. And the Muslims said, no, not really. We want to have this in the city, in the residential area, plonked down in the middle where the people live. And this was supposed to be a mega mosque. Okay, so now the Muslims went to court, and now because the court said, well, poor Muslims, yeah, they should have a mosque. So they decided to tell this is a tiny city, okay, they don't have anybody. And they're telling them, okay, we feel so sorry for the Muslims. And yes, they can't build a mega mosque in the middle of town. They have to go outside a bit on one of the through roads. But now you need to pay them. Why they need to pay them, nobody knows. So now they need to buy the land for them, which is like $2.5 million. And then they need to pay damages. Damages for what? I don't know. But now in total, they need to cough up $7.7 million to buy the land and then pay damages. I don't know for what. For not being allowed to build a house of worship where nobody is allowed to build a house of worship, I suppose. So this is quite strange. And here's another odd one. I don't know how many people are watching this or following this or have noticed this. There was a woman, all right, an American teacher stabbed in Abu Dhabi in a mall. So police released the CCTV footage of a figure in an abaya, like a version of the burqa, leaving the mall. And then just a day later, the police announced, well, they arrested the killer. And in addition, I mean, this woman was, it turns out, well, they say it was a woman. She went and killed a woman in the mall, in a toilet. And then she put a homemade bomb or something looking like a bomb outside the door of a doctor who was supposed to be American. And of course, somebody walking out of the door would see this. So they saw this, called the police, they defused it, blah, blah, blah. And what is strange is all this was filmed, like how she was like leaving the mall, how they arrested her. Everything was on immediately was available on tape. And it was all over YouTube, it was all over the news, everything. And they found everything within hours. And as a motive, the press was told that it was to cause chaos in the UAE, in the United Arab Emirates, by killing some Americans. And they were not actually American. I mean, the woman was actually Hungarian and the man was Egyptian, I think, or something like that. I mean, it's all very weird. And now there are rumors that more jihadists, more fighters are operating in the UAE to disrupt everyday life. It's quite strange. I don't know how much of this is fabricated, how much of this is real, how this all sounds a little bit too smooth. I mean, I've seen these guys in action, and this doesn't normally happen so quickly. But then maybe again, now they've learned and maybe they can do that. What is outright bizarre is that we have a sensation from Pope Francis. You know, the Christian Catholic, I don't know, he's the head of some group of Christians. And he's infallible, of course. And he came out, he said that, and now listen to this. I mean, this is a pope who's been on this planet for I don't know how many decades. And he realizes something and he tells Christians are being driven from the Middle East. I mean, this is a message to Iraqi Christians who were forced to flee by Islamic State, the Daesh, jihadists, the cutthroats. And he says, Christians are being driven from the Middle East. I mean, they have been driven from the Middle East for I don't know how many centuries, and now Pope Francis comes up with this. I mean, isn't that wonderful? Oh, goodness. And then he summarizes this with, it would seem that Daesh do not want there to be any Christians in the area. I mean, this guy is so brilliant. Oh, goodness. Maybe he's going to get a Peace Nobel Prize for this, because all sorts of idiots get Peace Nobel Prizes these days. That's amazing. In Saudi, in KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we have a slight problem. Well, football clubs have. Because I always think this is funny, because the country is driving out expats, all right, or trying to get more Saudis working in their, what they call Saudization effort. So that they're trying to educate their own people and then place them in a program which allocates quotas, where Saudis need to be hired for every, I don't know, X number of foreigners. Now, I remember when this happened in South Africa, right? Because when apartheid broke down, they said, well, we need to have affirmative action. Now we need to have more blacks in empowered positions in the companies. And I remember some companies hired blacks and paid them to stay at home because the race, I mean, this was introducing apartheid in my like a race-based quota. In my opinion, this was apartheid when this was introduced. So, and the same is happening now. The Saudi football clubs cannot hire international players or coaches or whatever until they either get an exemption or wait for the talent to appear locally. I mean, so it shows how ludicrous all these systems are, where you have a quota for something. I mean, it's a way to make your life complicated. And there's a new book out, and I was going to discuss this with Kling a bit, because it's about Arabs without God. So it's atheism and return of belief freedom of belief. Sorry, it's Arabs without God, atheism and freedom of belief in the Middle East. It's by a British journalist, Brian Whittaker, who's lived in the Middle East for a long time, and he says that this is now the intellectual revolution, all right, not stemming from the scientific discoveries, because a lot of people in the West, they're saying, well, if the Quran is so scientific, then there must be something to it. No, in Arab societies, he says it's different. They observe the inadequacy and unfairness of the Islamic God, where, for example, a Hitler can go to heaven and enjoy his wine and virgins, and the dentist next door, who helps people all his life, goes to a perceived hell for not believing this God exists. So they question this divine fairness, as he calls it, and this is what disenchants them and leads them into not believing that a God exists, especially the Islamic one. And he shows in his book how others have had the same doubts and challenged the existing clergy on this. I mean, people in history, like 1,000 years ago, even Rawandi, Abu al-Amari, Omar Khayyam, and Al-Razi, and so on. I mean, in those days, they were not really called atheists, but free thinkers or heretics or whatever. But they have existed throughout history. And this is then today, I mean, this is my personal private observation as well, that I see that Muslims are not the way that Muslims were just a couple of years ago, because we had this increase in religiosity, especially amongst the Muslims, like 10, 15 years ago, something like that. And now if I look around, people have realized, no, especially with Daesh and especially with Boko Haram and all these groups, I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, whether you go to Somalia, Indonesia, Philippines, you always have these crackpots. And Muslims are telling you, well, Islam, the religion of peace, and Islam, everybody is so wonderful, and this God makes you such a wonderful person, and it's so spiritual, and it's all about love and harmony and about tolerance. And then you look at reality, and it's the exact opposite. And that makes people think. I think more Muslims are abandoning their religion because of Muslims than because of atheists. I don't know why atheists are perceived as such a threat. I don't know. I spoke to the guys at LDM, at the London Dawah movement. Oh, sorry, the Global Dawah movement. And they feel so incredibly threatened by atheists. Where, I mean, I don't believe, all right? I react. If LDM would never have appeared, and there would never have been Hamza sources telling them, yeah, you need to go out and you need to spread the news. And if they would have kept quiet, no atheist would have ever worried or bothered with them, because it's atheists react. They don't go out and knock on people's doors and say, you have to be an atheist now. It's much better for you. Don't believe this nonsense. They don't go to hospitals and say to people, look, don't worry, there's no God. You don't have to worry about dying. And that. They don't do that. I've never seen an atheist table distributing atheist literature like on some street corner. No, Muslims do this. Christians do this. I don't know why they do this. So if they are the ones who are standing on the street corners and blasting their messages out there, what am I supposed to do? Am I just to say, yeah, okay, it's fine? No, I react. And then I look at these things, and I'm sorry that I'm passionate about the truth and sincerity. And I like to know that whatever is believed is actually true. And there's reason to believe what people believe or what I believe. And that is why I go and react and I check, okay, is this really true? So I went last week, I bumped into some of these guys distributing their Qurans, or what they call Qurans. And I say, yeah, but hang on, you're saying you're distributing Qurans, but you're not distributing Qurans. Yeah, well, it is a sort of a Quran. I said, hang on, you are advertising this as distributing the Quran. Are you distributing the Quran? Well, sort of. They will not be so honest and say, no, we are not trying to, we're trying to get away from the explanation that we can't really not distribute the Quran and say we're distributing the Quran, but we cannot explain it to people. So we'd rather lie and say we're distributing the Quran when all we're doing is distributing the approximate meaning of the Quran. And they don't understand that there is a difference between saying this is the approximate meaning of the Quran and this is the Quran. They will not acknowledge that they are this is being dishonest, okay? Because in a country like France or the UK, this approximate meaning of the Quran means it's not the Quran. It's not protected by religion. Because in a religious book, I mean, the Bible should be wrapped in plastic for all the pornography, for all the violence. And the same is true for the Quran. But because it's religious, it's protected. You can distribute this anyway. But now, if you distribute a book which is the approximate meaning of the Quran, it means it is not protected by the religion articles or whatever you call them. And it has things in it which are anti-constitutional, or UK doesn't have a constitution, against the basic human rights. So I think this is quite odd that the government is allowing a book to be distributed. I mean, somebody here, somebody I know is a teacher, the headmaster of a school, and she was complaining that there were Muslims distributing the Quran in school, and she said, "No, you're not allowed to distribute the Quran this is a public school, and you are not allowed to distribute this just the same way as Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons are not allowed to distribute their Bibles or their versions of their Christianity." And there was a huge outcry. And then she said, "Can you believe this?" I said, "Well, why don't you come to me? I would have explained this to me." And she went to the school board and said, "Well, what they are distributing is not the Quran, but just an approximate version. So in other words, it's not what the Constitution allows or says and guarantees." And that's why they were they said, "No, we're not going to allow this." And this was okay. And they went to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, "Yes, you're right." So I don't know why they can do this in a school, but they're not allowed to do this in public, that these Qurans are not allowed to be distributed. Because I think a Quran without any kind of guidance, without any kind of help, is quite dangerous. Because the people will then point out only the cozy sentences and forget about the others. And this is exactly how you create a misconception about the Quran. So I think it's automatic that you should have some sort of tuition on what the Quran is and what the Sunnah is and what it says there and what all the meaning is of the Quran before you're allowed to freely distribute it. Okay, I see I have old Mr. Ike joining me here on the show. He probably feels sorry for me having to talk here for 2 hours, even though it's easy because I was going to talk about apologists today. So, Mr. Ike, what do you have for us?
No, you're right. I just came to accompany you because I feel sorry.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you.
But if something comes up in my mind, I will talk, of course.
Well, while you're there, what is your... Okay, how many times have you bumped into Muslim apologists or Muslim distributors or something in free normal life in Switzerland?
Well, Switzerland is not it's not that hard to walk freely and not to bump into people like that.
So they're not as frequent.
No, I've live in a small village, and beside this village is a little town. But in the town, I only see on the Saturday Bible stands.
Okay.
But Muslims, I've never seen them, so it's moderate here in Switzerland.
So do you approach these Bible thumpers or these Bible distributors?
Not really, no. I've never. I just had a conversation with them, but not really, especially long.
Okay. But now, what version, what flavor of Christianity are they selling?
It's different. There are different groups. Sometimes it's Jehovah's Witnesses, sometimes Evangelists. It's not part of the same groups in there.
Because I love going up to the Jehovah's Witnesses and asking, "Do you know whether your elders have made a mistake last week?" Because they hate that. They hate that with a passion. And then if somebody comes and says, "Yeah, but what are you selling?" and why is you're like, you Christians? Because everybody says Jesus. Everything is about Jesus. The Muslims like Jesus. The Jehovah's Witnesses like Jesus. Everybody seems to be like centered around this figure of Jesus. And they think that if you mention Jesus a lot, everybody likes you, because mentioning Jesus is like comfort. And then I say to them, are you Christian? Yeah. Are you by any chance Catholic? Yes. I said, well, these people don't think that you are a Christian. And she looks at them and says, am I a Christian? And they will say, no, you're not Christian. And then they walk away in a huff because they're insulted. And then Jehovah's Witnesses are angry with me because I interfered with them. I always get such a laugh out of it.
Yeah, but I don't have conversations like that. Like I said, I had only once a little talk, and there were no people at that stand. Only these two guys who just stand by it. Yeah, and did nothing. Just waited for people to approach them.
Well, the thing is, if you do like I've had this speech training, all right. So what I can do is I can generate more volume from out of my stomach. And then I will talk quite loudly, so I can actually fill a hall. If the microphone breaks, I don't have a problem in letting the voice trail to the end, to the other side of the room. So if I'm outside and then I automatically switch this on to make it sound a little bit louder, and then people automatically pay attention to what I am saying, and then it's fun, last week I went there and I said to the people, why do you believe what the Quran says? Why do you believe that hitting a corpse with a piece of steak will revive it? Now, this always gets the attention of everybody. It gets the attention of the Muslims because they don't know about it, and it gets the attention of others because they think, what is that in the Quran? And then people automatically hear this, then they stop and listen to what I have to say. And I love the sight of embarrassment on the eyes of the Muslims. And I just say, well, open the Quran, go here, read this. We went through this into Thingamajig 73. Then you can see them squirming because they don't like this. And they say, yeah, but this is not really what it says, and maybe it says something different. And people then say, oh, is that really what it says in the Quran? Is that what it means? I said, yep, that's what it is. Ask them about talking ants. Ask them about flying horses. And the funny thing is, it doesn't even mention the flying horse in the Quran. But Muslims get embarrassed just the same. It's quite strange.
I would love to have Muslims here to do the same as in Germany, in bigger cities. These lies. Maybe in Zurich and Bern I would see them, but I don't go especially just for that to Bern. That's a 1 hour trip with the train. One way, so I don't have a need for that, especially just to embarrass them.
Yeah, but here it's like they are in different places, all right? I don't know how they do this, and it's quite chaotic. Sometimes they will say, well, we're outside this in the station or this in the square, and then they're not, because they didn't feel like it or something, I don't know what. And they're playing games because they don't like people like me doing what I'm doing. They don't like people proactively coming to them, searching for them, and then ridiculing them. They don't like that. I mean, the last time, I just happened to see them. Because I was out and I said with a friend of mine, and he wanted some advice on some TV, blah blah. So we went there, and then we said, well, let's go have a cup of coffee. So, and then I saw them, and he says, oh no, I know what you're gonna do next. I said, yes, come on. He says, no, I don't have the nerves for that. And then he said, no, don't worry about it. You go have your fun. I'm going home. And then we said we're going to meet an hour later. So I knew I had 1 hour to discuss Quran with them. And that is the way that it happens. I just happened to bump into them because in a large city in Europe, you are more likely to hit them than somewhere in Switzerland. You're right. Yeah.
But you can't withstand it. If you see them, you can't withstand, right?
No, I can't. I mean, because this is so much fun. Like somebody comes and, I mean, the same thing with when people were selling these funny magnet wrist bands, okay? I couldn't stop this. I used to go to them and say, why do you believe that this magnetism is going to help you. Well, because it did help me, and this happened. And then a couple of days later, they were taken off the market, and they had to refund everybody in Australia. And then, and it makes me feel good that this person, this woman, probably thought, oh my God, and I just had the guy there telling me that this is nonsense, and I told them how wonderful this is, and now they have to take it off the market because it's rubbish. And I actually went and talked to him about this. And I don't know, this gives me satisfaction somehow that I have contributed in bringing more sincerity and more truth to this planet. Maybe this is my purpose in life, is to bring more truth to this world. Oh my goodness! Okay, and we have a full waiting list here. I don't remember who was first. Was it Salamut or was it last?
Salamut was first.
Then let's take Salamut first. Hello, Salamut. How are you doing? And welcome to Alasa as well. Let's give Salamut the first chance then. What have you got for us?
Oh, hey, I just wanted to chuck my 2 cents in with the whole responding to street Dawah.
Yeah, sure, great.
Yeah. What I really like to do is actually like pretend to go with it. So you're like, oh yeah, this is sounding really nice, all right? And I don't know, I guess I'm a bit of a shit stirrer this way, and I'll be like, oh cool, this is really cool, and then I'll say something that I know they'll feel really uncomfortable about, and like watching their change in demeanor. So I'll be like,
evil.
I'll be like, and they'll be like, oh yes, Islam is peace, and look at all these wonderful fluffy verses that we cherry picked from the Quran. It's like, oh, this is really good. Wow, I have to call up my boyfriend and tell him about this.
Does it teach you the knots how to tie him up?
And then they'll be like, what? They'll be like, yeah, my boyfriend. It's like, but you're a guy. It's like, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and then the jaws drop or what?
Yeah, well, some of them, some of them are like, oh, well, and they sort of try to fluffy your, like, oh, well, it's best not to, and others are just like, oh, the nice fluffy Dawah guy, yeah, he disappears. You become a filthy, disgusting creature.
I love it. Okay, great. Do you have any more stories, or should we go to?
We'll let the other guy have a word in first.
Alasa, hi, welcome.
Of course it works with Firefox. I'm now on Firefox. Alasa.
Okay, my Firefox does not do this. For some odd reason, my Firefox does not show any comments. So I have to do this on Opera. I don't use Chrome. Okay, Alasa, welcome. What have you got for us? Are you unmuting yourself?
He has written, Google Hang works with Chrome, not with Firefox. So I don't know if he is with Firefox online now and can't talk just right.
Because Firefox doesn't work.
For him, it seems, yes.
So Chrome works. So why don't you go to Chrome and then join the Hangout? I don't quite understand.
Wait, what's not working? The actual.
I got no microphone. I will find one. Okay.
Okay, you go find a microphone, and then we'll talk to you later. Okay. Well, Salamut, do you have any more comments on Street Dawah, or do you just want to hang in there and chip in when we ever feel like it?
I'll probably do the latter.
Okay, cool. Because what happens normally, well, it depends, because you see you have different groups sitting on street corners, Muslims I mean, because you have some which just want to like distribute Islam, and then you have the Lies Project from this guy Abu Naji, who actually, I mean, this is quite a shady character. Okay, he's under observation by the Security, Safety, National, I don't know what it's called. Then because he collects welfare, all right? He doesn't work. He's on social welfare, but he made a video where he actually showed his American Express credit card, and it's not the normal, what are they, blue or green or whatever, and it's not the silver one, it's not the gold one, it's the black one. So That is quite high.
The no limit one, I think.
Well, there still is, but yeah, it's very high. I mean, it's highly negotiable. But the thing is that somebody who's on welfare shouldn't really have not even a platinum, I mean, let alone a gold card, because they normally you need to generate like a whole lot of revenue. I mean, I was generating like 40,000 on my card every year, so that was worth it. But if you're on welfare, you don't have this kind of thing. So I don't know how he does it. Now, he spent a couple of million having these books printed, running through him. I don't know how he does it. I don't know whether he really has a company, Lies Limited or something, and then he collects money and then has people do the printing. Actually, the first printer, when he found out what it is that he was printing, he stopped and he cancelled the order and he says, no, fuck off. I'm not interested in printing your Quran. Then they must have found somebody else because they carried on printing. Then he actually expanded and he printed several colors and different languages and everything. So he must have tremendous, financial sponsorship from somewhere to be able to go through with this. Because, right, the people are volunteers. He doesn't pay them anything. But the books themselves, they cost a lot of money. These are not paperbacks. These are hardcovers, all right? They're printed in several colors, the covers, and they look quite nice. I've only got two, one in white and red and one in dark green or something and gold. So these actually look quite good. So this must cost a lot of money, and then to distribute them, they come there, they have the whole car full of these books. And when, I don't know if anybody have seen this, when LDM, for example, when they went to Brazil, complete with Dawah Man and I don't know who else, I mean, a whole bunch of them went there, they transported tons and tons of material to Brazil to distribute. You know, like every day they were distributing paper, they were distributing brochures, they were distributing Qurans. So you could see that there was like palette after palette, and it was full of stuff, of books, of materials. So I don't know who finances all this, where they get the money to buy tickets for 10 people to get into a plane, plus a couple of, I don't know how many tons of material, transport everything down to Brazil, to Bahrain, to wherever they're going. I mean, this must cost a packet. Imagine the money that is being wasted just to drop some pamphlets on guys. And that is amazing if I see this.
I'm pretty sure that the Saudis or Harun Yahya could also be, because Harun Yahya produced tons and tons and tons of books by himself. So he has the capacity to do that also. Could be.
I'm not. I wouldn't doubt that they get the Joel Osteen the money as well.
What, Joel Osteen?
Yeah, as in they do the equivalent of Joel. Like, you know who Joel Osteen is?
No.
Oh, he's a very, 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 very rich man who is a evangelical Christian preacher, and he's got like a huge mansion, and he gets a lot of money from his very big congregation. So he's very much funded by his. So maybe a similar process. They have a lot of supporters. They have some supporters who would also fund them.
Okay, that's possible. But I mean, we're really talking big bucks here. So I don't know who is doing it. But it could also be what is it? From Qatar, I think they're also getting a lot of money.
Yeah, that could also be. That's right. Because on this in English translation, the Reed Foundation, they don't print an ISB number or where it's printed. Doesn't say anything in this Qurans, in these translations.
Oh, I never checked.
No, there is no ISBN, because with the ISBN you could, if it even isn't said where to print, with the ISBN you can track this down in which country it's printed, because the ISBN has
translation of the meaning in English language, and English not with a capital. So somebody made a mistake on the cover of this Quran. Oh, people, you are so incompetent. An approximate translation of its verses into the English language. And here it's in capital. Not for sale. First edition, June 14. Publisher, Reed Foundation, Germany. Lies Stiftung, Köln. Printed in Europe. Printed in Europe, but you're right. There's no ISBN. There's no number. There's nothing else.
Well, yours has at least printed in Europe. Mine's the 14th edition doesn't say even that. So.
This is such a primitive book. I mean, the way that this is printed, there's no introduction, there's no nothing. It just says the Quran, an approximate translation. So this is a lie. You can't put there the Quran if it's not the Quran. Not for sale. And then it starts immediately, the opening, Al-Fatiha. Those who give short measure, those are in the name of God, the Lord, the mercy, the giver of mercy.
Well, have you considered that that maybe all these mistakes and bad writings are more the result of Allah's perfect use of language and such?
Yeah, exactly.
Because the Quran is a piece of linguistic miracle that your heathen eyes just can't see the beauty that this is.
And this one is 4th edition. Oh, and here it's a name. Here it's exactly this, Ibrahim Abu Naji. And this one has an introduction, a little bit of history, and then it starts with the surahs. But it has nothing on top. You will not be able to find anything. You have to page through this to find. Like if you want 415, you have to find where's 4. Oh, and this even has an index. The other one doesn't have an index.
Mine has also an index.
If I go now to a real Quran, I wonder whether this has an ISBN number. I've never checked this, Oh, the Quran, Maktab Darus Salam, 1996, King Fahad National Library publication.
Mine has an index, and it starts immediately also with the opening.
Summarized 700. This has an ISBN number, 996074079X. Okay, so this has an ISBN number. Legal deposit number, ISBN number, da. So this one is the real Quran actually has all this, but not this primitive stuff by Abu Naji, the Lies Foundation.
Yours is by Abu Naji, mine is by Abu Rida.
But this is also from Lies? Yeah, the front looks exactly the same. Is this in German?
Yeah. It's a nice book. It's good made, so.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I said this is not just a cheap paperback. So this must really cost them like a lot of boodle. Okay, so anyway, so these are being distributed now throughout Europe. They're probably going to go to Canada as well, and maybe even North America. I don't know if they have different rules or laws or regulations or whatever. But
probably not.
It's quite strange that they're actually allowed to distribute this book, which is against all human rights. Alassa, are you back with a microphone now?
No, he just rejoined it, but I don't know if he has one. I don't think.
Doesn't look like it.
Not working yet.
Okay, then you go. Let us know as soon as you have something or know something. Let me quickly go and check in the comments. I wish they would sort out these stupid comments. Hi guys, he's got a big gob. I've got a big gob. Why do I have a big gob? Lincoln, come on, tell me, why do I have a big gob? Does that mean because I can project my voice? No, I've just been trained that I can love and do very high ones and things like that. You learn these things because I'm lucky that I went into companies where training was obligatory. And they sent me on training courses, so you had to go to training every single year. And then when I was in the States, they would send me to all sorts of. I went into time management training and presentation and things like that. So I'm very lucky that I've received excellent training during my time when I was in the States. So anyway, what I want to do is talk a little bit about apologists and why apologists think that they are making any kind of an impression when actually they're not. I mean, you have different kinds of apologists. You have the Numan Ali Khans who, I mean, he talks and talks and talks and talks, but he says absolutely nothing. He just says, yeah, in the Quran we have this, yeah, but I can read this. And then he says, yeah, and this is this, and if it says that you can marry 4 women, it means that a man can not only have 1 wife, he can have like 1 or 2 and 3, and he can even have 4 women and 4 wives. And I mean, and he repeats this 5 times, and then I don't know how these guys think. And after he's repeated this a couple of times, he then summarizes everything and says, yeah, women can actually have 4 women, 4 wives, and that carries on and on and on. But he's not really saying anything. Then you have people who say, well, the Quran says this, and the 4 wives is actually not to be taken literally, and you shouldn't really, because in another place it says that you should only take 1, not realizing that they've just contradicted the Quran. Or they've shown up a contradiction in the Quran, because there's so many of these where it says the Quran is so peaceful. Well, on other places it says the opposite. So all they've done is they've come up with a contradiction within the Quran. And then you have other people again who say, well, you have to have it like this. You need to do it like this. And then you have people like Hamza, who doesn't understand anything and just makes things sound. I remember I think it was Professor Dawkins or Professor Myers, or maybe both of them talking, and said, have you come across this funny Muslim who's outside there? What is he actually saying? Yeah, with me too. He was using all this jargon about the narrative discourse and things like that, but it doesn't really make sense what he's saying. So these 2 guys were laughing about Hamza, trying to sound all posh and pompous and failing completely. And this is what I see again and again and again. So, question to you guys, have you come across an apologist or somebody or anyone that has ever impressed you?
Impressed? No, but in terms of entertain, I think my favorite sort of phenomenon is sort of like this apologetics ping pong between Christianity and Islam, because they're both Abrahamic religions. They have similar justifications. And like, for example, the Kalam cosmological argument sort of fell out of favor in Islamic talkings, but it got taken up by evangelical Christians, and now it's being done to death because YouTube exists. It's been it's sort of fallen to the wayside. Yet I find a lot of Muslim apologists tend to be that I encounter tend to be William Lane Craig plagiarists, and then they use the Kalam cosmological argument. So the one that Muslims themselves rejected a while ago, they're using again.
Yes, it is quite strange when you see, like during a talk, suddenly you see Hamza like banging his hand on the podium. That was a little noise. I wonder what the big noise was. Don't you want to know? And then Adam Dean in a talk says, whoops, that was a little noise. And sometime there was a big noise. Don't you want to know what the big noise? And if you put them right behind each other, they say identical stuff. And you see this crop up, exactly what you are saying. All these clones who have watched William Lane Craig, and then they're so impressed by this, but they don't understand it. I've had Hamza say, well, when Tipler says it's 1 to the power of 15, in reality it should be 115, but he doesn't understand it, so he makes a mistake like that. This is quite embarrassing, but he doesn't care, he just carries on. And Muslims never check this, so they don't care.
If you ask about impression, do you mean impression like awe, or impression also in stupidity?
Well, I suppose it's both. Well, it depends where you are. I mean, if you are somebody like Hamza who doesn't, I mean, he doesn't have any education, he doesn't have any knowledge, he doesn't really know what he's doing, so he's like totally in awe when he hears Craig say these things, and then I can picture him sitting in front of a mirror and then practicing this, and because he copies him down to the hand movement and gestures and facial expressions, and he even adds the same jokes, so he's like totally mesmerized and totally flabbergasted when he hears Craig, and then others said, no, it doesn't work that way, and then they ridicule this. So especially if it's a Christian saying, yeah, but we have this Trinity and this makes so much sense, and this they mock, and the other one they just sort of copy in total admiration.
I have like hypothetical arguments, like not like putting religious affiliation aside, just talking about like hypotheticals and stuff. That can be sort of interesting. Like, for example, how the covenant with Abraham would apply to the descendants of Ishmael as well, and why that will then go to why that would then cover those who are not the descendants of Ishmael and that sort of stuff. And then you've got some others which have that Chinese whispers sort of apologetics where they've heard something, like it's obviously a popular idea, but they're not quite sure what it is. And you get things like, a while ago, someone once used this this phrase, "Did your mother make yourself?" or something like that.
Oh, that is so pathetic.
I was like, what? Wait, are you saying like, is my mother? Or did I have a mother? Like, what is that? What?
Well, like you can't even prove your great grandfather. This is so stupid. What is Hassan doing?
He just draws something. Either he
going crazy.
Maybe he's just how do I say, annoyed by our talks, and he does his own thing.
No, he's just fiddling, trying to get something to it. No, Alasa, you cannot adjust anything within Google. You can only switch your microphone on and off. Like now you've got the camera pointed at yourself taking photos or something. All you can do is just switch it on and off in the middle. That's all you basically need. What you can do, of course, if you go into the control room, there you can mute yourself, or you can make yourself softer or louder or whatever you want. But other than that, there's not a lot that you can do with all these applications. They just play stuff. Like me with my noises. I like my noises, so this is why I have this. What do you call it? This. No, not the toolbox. The effects. The Google effects. Funny effect, yeah. Okay, so we're talking about apologists. If you want to join in, go to YouTube. Go to the Jinn and Tonic show. If you found the channel, click on the About, and then you click on the Live button, and then you see the comments opening up, and at the bottom, or if you've got it set on, what is it, popular first? No, top comments first, then you see it on top, a link. If you click on that, you are automatically joining here, and then you can comment or ask questions or make suggestions or whatever. So we are the Jinn and Tonic show talking about Islam, and we have several guests here. We're talking about the different experiences people have had with apologists, with Muslim apologists, because at the moment this is what I'm doing, because I've taken a break from my Read the Quran series, because so many people, I mean, you know, like I'm even afraid to go to Facebook, because there's like sometimes 15 messages which open, and then I've got like, I think the maximum is 20, so I have 20 activities and 15 PMs and things like that, and everybody says, go and watch this video, go and watch this video, go and watch this. I can't do that. I don't have time to do that. How much time do you guys spend every week on Islam? Do you spend time, or is it just like sporadic whenever you feel like it?
It's whenever I'm sort of interested. My interest in Abrahamic any Abrahamic religion and folklore and blah blah blah, it goes as far as any other sort of mythology, I guess.
Okay.
So like, yeah. So like for example, there's a figure in Jewish folklore called Samael, He's an angel who's known as the destroyer and the accuser, blah blah blah, and what role he has in historically in say both Christian and Islamic ideas of Satan. But yeah,
wow.
it's on that level. It's always on that level. It's more like what is it culturally? What is it historically? Who are the figures involved? So sort of like anyone reading up on Olympus or reading up on the old Norse pantheon or the old or the many different
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I personally have a problem with the religions that are still practiced today, like Judaism and Hinduism and of course Islam and Christianity, because these are old myths and still they are believed. I can see why people don't distinguish that it's still just a myth thing, and take one religion still serious, and the old myths are myths to them. So
yeah, I understand. I agree with you 100%, because I said in the beginning, this is how Islam actually came into existence, and I'm using this came into existence. This is how Islam started, because it's the era, it's the time, it's the culture, it's the specific things happened, and it didn't come into a void. It developed, and this is exactly the point that you're making, that there are things which happened at the time, which was useful for the people, and that's why they came up with this. This is the whole point of religion. It's not, it wasn't intended. I mean, especially Islam was never intended to survive 1,000 years. It was only applicable there and then for 100, 200 years, and then people didn't worry about it. But it just stuck because it gives I found that people in any country, if they are a little bit insecure, they find the rigidity of the rituals in Islam comforting. For them, it is good to know that if they go and spend years on their knees, that this is good, and this is something that they can do. I think everybody can get down on their knees, and if somebody appreciates that they get down on their knees, wow, this is great. Yeah, let me go down on my knees. It's not a big deal. And if I get like eternity in paradise, let me do that. Not bad. So it's like a combination of Pascal's wager and gullibility and old spiritual superstitions and things like that.
Well, I reckon that it's more. I think it's an inherent like religion and religious, and not just religion, but religious thought. The sort of single-minded dogmatism is actually a accumulation of different, very human processes. I mean, we anthropomorphize things. We like to see patterns. We search for meaning. Like if most people, if they see 2 marks and underneath those 2 marks is a horizontal curvy line, they'll see a face. Because they're looking for that meaning. Their brains are always searching for that meaning, even if it doesn't quite make sense. So even if that's obviously not a face, they still interpret it as a face. And so I think that religion, the idea that there is some anthropomorphized idea of agency of the universe, or agencies of the universe, and that there's inherent meaning, and yeah, I think that's a very human thing, and I don't think it'll ever go away, ever, really, as long as humans still, are neurologically wired like this.
So why don't I have this?
Well, see, because we might be the exception, but I think we tend to do it on smaller levels. So, for example, if I have a sniffly nose, if I've got a cold, right, I'll curse that cold, like, that bloody cold. What? The cold's just a process. It's a bloody virus. It's barely alive. But I'm still anthropomorphizing it, because I generally do that. A thing with a face is another one. Also, you'll find a lot of atheists have stupid, unscientific beliefs.
Okay, that is true. Okay, but you can't.
Yeah, but what? If you look at my picture now, what do you see?
Exactly. This is the pattern-seeking portion of the brain, the pareidolia effect. This is what everybody has. I mean, I have the same thing. I cannot distinguish whether a mask is outwards or bent inwards or outwards. I cannot see that because my brain automatically compensates to make it look like a face. Exactly with these trees, it's automatic. Hang on, I need to click on this. No, hang on. If I click on this, why doesn't this come up? Ah, now it comes up. My mouse is a little bit. I've got a Logitech mouse, and they have this funny double-click syndrome, so it doesn't work. Oh my God, you're a filthy, dirty pig. How could you do that?
Tree porn, rule 34.
Tree sex.
Yeah, it's rule 34. If it exists, there is porn for it.
Because I couldn't see it when it was small, but now that it's like big on the screen, now it becomes sort of apparent.
Doggy style, the other is, I don't know what the one is.
You don't need to explain it. I mean, now when it's big, it's quite obvious. But this is amazing. And yeah, but hang on, is this Photoshop or is this real?
No, those are real trees. No Photoshop. But that is what we are talking about. The brain does that.
Yeah, but the brain can do that on a less a more abstract level as well. You see a lot of people who have a sort of wishy-washy theology, like very liberal Muslims and Christians, who haven't even read the holy books. But their parents were this religion. But it is the majority. So there's the social thing with it. So the social conditions say look out for these patterns, and you see that too because when people some people it doesn't make sense how people can't see these patterns. They're like, look at the trees, look at the skies. That's almost a stereotype now, and they'll appeal to those things because they're anthropomorphic. That is awesome.
That's the Allah fish.
Oh yeah, this is supposed to say something on the side. Yeah.
Okay,
does that work? If I'm talking now, you see the mosque, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. If I click on this, is this now, even though I'm talking, showing the fish?
So now I clicked away the fish. Now it should show.
Okay, I've still got the fish because the way that I understand it, if you click on a symbol, you are bringing this up to the front, and then no matter who talks, this will be the picture. Is that the case?
I think so. Well, look at the YouTube comments.
No,
wrong tab.
See a fish.
Yeah,
it's YouTube Hangout.
Hang on, let me unclick it.
And nobody was understood. Does anybody see a fish and now a tomato?
No, not anymore. Because, it's when I click on it, I'll see it. Sorry. That's where I was confused.
Aha, so I cannot click on this and make this visible for everybody. Everybody has to do this for themselves. Okay, so because if you click on the thumbnail, then that picture comes up, and I thought that I could force that people can only see this by me clicking on the tomato.
Nah, but yeah, everyone go Google Allah tomato. It's great.
Yeah, this is so funny, and there's a lot of people, and okay, I analyzed this. What does it say in the Quran about being gullible and like questioning things? And unfortunately, Islam does not teach you to question. Islam just teaches you to obey and to learn only and to get knowledge only and to reflect only and to ponder only what is in the Quran. It doesn't say go out and study nature. It says go and study what God has given you, but nothing else. And God has given you the Quran. So you're supposed to stay within the bounds of the Quran. Don't go outside. Don't go and find what is happening in nature. Don't go and find out what evolution does for you. You need to stay within the limits of the Quran. And this is the problem. And then you tell Muslims, well, over 50% are illiterate. And then it's like, no, you're lying. No, I'm not. It's a fact. And they will not accept it. They will say, no, your links are broken, your links are wrong. It doesn't. And the funny thing is, there's Islamic charities, there's Islamic projects to get literacy into Muslims, because so many hundreds of millions are illiterate. I mean, there are countries where 95% of the women have zero education. They are completely uneducated. They can't read. They know absolutely nothing. And when you say things like that,
they go really on the defensive, and you're like, wait, no, stick with me. It makes sense because they're generally in the developing world, so education standards are lower. So it would make sense that more Muslims who are in the developing world would be less literate, would it not? It's like, yeah, it's like, but it's like, and then it's like, so more Muslims are illiterate, and it's like, oh, then they get defensive again.
Yeah, that's funny. And you can't come with arguments, with rational arguments, or you can't come with links to pages which are by Muslims who are helping other Muslims because it's so atrociously low. It doesn't gel. They will not accept it. They will not accept something that's negative because it could mean that Islam is actually detrimental for them and actually stops them from getting an education, which it does. But they will not accept this. They will not allow this to happen. It's quite odd.
Well, at least we have this old, even if it's a lie, it is a lie. The Hadith who tells us Muhammad said, search knowledge even if it's in China.
No, that's fabricated. That doesn't exist.
But I would find that okay. It's good. It's a good Hadith, even if it's a lie. But stick with it. If you find knowledge that contradicts the Quran, so why don't take the knowledge?
Well, this is the point. They say you cannot. The Quran is the highest authority. You cannot contradict the Quran, and yet Muhammad does. So, which is it? Are only some people allowed to contradict it, or nobody? Is the Quran the highest authority, or is it not? This is always my.
And like another thing on the whole defensiveness thing, and most people, Muslim or not, would probably agree that Daesh are a pretty freaking horrible phenomenon, right? But when you get some of the really dogmatic ones on the defensive, they're going to say, well, yeah, ISIS is pretty freaking awful. It's like, come on, you can say it. You can say, go on, condemn them. No.
Well, this is my campaign I've had now for the last, 2 or 3 months, where I sometimes forget, but normally I do. I ask anybody, like, I love YouTube comments. I don't know why I'm such a sucker for YouTube comments. I'm addicted to them. I try to stop, and I can't. When I see something, I have to comment. I don't know why. What drives me? What compulsive disorder I have that makes me comment some stupid video. Anyway,
you need treatment.
I need professional help, I know. But anyway, whenever something comes up, and then I tend to say things which rile someone, and then somebody will respond and say, oh, you're such an idiot, you don't know, have you read the Quran, and things like that. And then the first thing that I do is I ask them, would you, or do you categorically condemn other Muslims who stone a woman to death? And that causes a lot of very loud silence. Because they will not be able, this is exactly what you said just now, they will not be able to do that. And this is now my standard question. Do you categorically condemn Muslims who stone a woman to death? Categorically, right? It must be categorically. You don't just, because they will come with all sorts of cop-outs and blah, blah. No. You need to categorically condemn a Muslim who stones a woman to death. You know that 90% are not able to do that?
Wow, well, then most in Australia must be in that 10%.
Yeah.
Oh, then again, it is a debate.
They do condemn them?
Sorry?
Do you say they are condemning Muslims to stone a woman to death?
Yeah, but they're, like I said, most of the Muslims I interact with, like most of the Christians I interact with, they are because their parents are, for the most part, and they believe in.
So they're more cultural Muslims.
I guess that's the word for it. I say liberalized or westernized Muslims too.
Okay.
Like these guys. Eid is just a time to food.
Party.
Like they don't fast. Like it's the same way that we treat Christmas. Christmas isn't the pagan holiday or the Christian holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah. But yeah, if you're so if you're a pretty intellectually honest. Like, if you're not a moderate liberal Muslim or westernized Muslim, comment down there and say, yeah, other Muslims who stone women are pretty shitty.
What is the most positive aspect? What is the most positive encounter you've ever had with a Muslim?
If they don't talk.
Sorry. Who's that? No, nobody. First, both of them, and now it's nobody talking.
Salamot, go.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say, I've got a really good friend, Ahmed, and most of my encounters with him are pretty positive. So, you know, with a Muslim, it would be friendship. that would be the most positive. But,
So
you know,
social
like I said, very liberal Muslim we're talking about. In terms of like someone who's a little more socially conservative, I don't know. I guess they tend to be. They tend to be more welcome. They tend to be a lot softer in their approach than Christians of the same level of zeal. Simply because I reckon it's because Muslims here in the West, they know that they are a minority and they know that they're a little distrusted and that they socially and culturally don't have the power behind them that Christianity does. So they'll tend to be easy go it. They won't initially tell you some of their darker views to your face like Christians would. Here.
Okay. And Ike, what is your experience like online? Or don't you come across apologists?
What was the question in detail?
Do you come across apologists in any way, online or whatever? And what is the most positive aspect that you appreciate most about them?
If they honestly talk about it and don't, how do I say?
Bullshit.
Yeah, don't talk bullshit about things that are facts in the Quran, written, etc. If they don't try to say no, that's not the meaning of it, etc.
So you find that an honest Muslim impresses you?
Yeah, like Anjem Judari in the UK. I like him way more than any other apologetics because he says the Islam is not just a peaceful religion; it is a religion of also war. So he is very honest about his religion, and I like that really. Even if it's horrible what he talks, but he is honest.
I guess in those terms I can divide religious people into two categories. One's a respect socially, and one's a respect for intellectual honesty. And I guess the best example of this is we'll compare, say, someone who's like a friendly Christian who will go, oh, Jesus loves you, and if you talk about the shittiest stuff in the Bible, they'll be like, oh no, that's just content. They'll lie. They're intellectually dishonest, but they're nicer. They're nicer to be around. And those I respect more socially, and that applies to Muslims too. But those I respect intellectually are pretty shitty people. So let's compare that nice fluffy Christian, yeah, nice fluffy Christian. They accept gays, they like drugs, blah 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 blah. But they're not very honest about their book. Extreme example, the Westboro Baptist Church. God hates fags. God hates you. God would probably kill your children and eat them. Yeah? The Bible supports that. They're very honest. They're very honest to their book. However, they're shitty people to be around.
Yeah,
so I respect them intellectually, don't respect them so much socially. So there's your two different types of respect I have for religious.
No, I think that's a very good classification. I think it's a very good point that you're making there. That the thing is that if somebody is honest about a shitty book, it doesn't make them popular. This is the problem. And I see the problem exactly there. I see the problem with the Quran. I see the way that the Quran is written, which requires interpretation, and then the people go and give it a positive spin, which is them making it dishonest if you continue doing so. But if you don't do that and you are honest, you're actually quite a despicable person because you have to do all these negative things. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I think was it Klingshaw who talked about how historically Islamic states haven't not the Islamic State, but Islamic states haven't really followed their religious law to the letter, and it hasn't been completely literal because it can't work. And so they're just sort of chilled, and it's a very loose interpretation, blah blah blah, metaphor, whatever. And yeah, so I would rather to be a friend with. I'd rather a dishonest Muslim than an honest one. To be fair, in terms of their holy books.
And then the other thing that I find is, if we now go a little bit further, that if it were not for religion, if it were not for the Quran, if I would meet somebody like Hamza or this Imran Hussein or whatever, I mean, if I would meet these people, I might well go and have a beer with them. But the thing, because of Islam, because it's indoctrinating them, and because they're being brainwashed, it's impossible. Because they're so limited in their thinking, they're so limited in their ways, and they always have this filter, like what I think it was Ken Ham who always said, let's put on our biblical glasses and look at the world. And this is what they have. They have permanently have these Islamic glasses on, which in so many cases makes them real assholes. Where in reality, if one of these guys and myself, we would be going, like walking down the road in town, and if an old lady in front of us would trip, we would both rush to support her. If somebody would lose their wallet, both of us would at the same time go pick up those, hey, you lost your wallet. Because we are very similar people. It's just that when it comes down to religion, then the guy says, well, Islam made me do it. And I would say, no, not really. This is societal. This is the well-being of the community which is making me do that. And this is where then the differences come in. So at the end of the day, we're not so different, but it's
I have to say something here.
Can I go have a coffee? Is this going to be longer?
No, it's not long. It could be that that those people who say Islam made me do that, it could be that it is like that. It could be that those are really sick people. If they don't have a guideline to life, they go and murder other people.
I know. Think so?
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Not majority, of course, that are just a single person on the.
It could be that there are people who have well-being of the community which is making me do that, and this is where then the differences come in. So at the end of the day, we're not so different. Whoa! Somebody has a microphone which is on echo. Hello, echo.
No, it's not. Okay, now it's good.
Okay.
That's good.
This was Arash. Okay, I didn't even see that somebody had come in. Okay, so this was my point, that actually at the end of the day, these people are the same as everybody else. It's just that the religion then makes them go all conky and cranky and skewed and everything. And you are making a valid point as well, that there are some people who, without the restraints of religion, would actually be quite assholish. So,
but I think also that that there's an aspect to some people which makes them more susceptible to dogmatic beliefs or very structured or very narrow worldview, sort of like just like a religion. So if there was no religion, they could be just as dogmatic for a political ideology. Like I've spoken to Marxists and anarcho-capitalists who lack just as much nuance as.
You mean the God gene?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like, for example, I know an anarcho-capitalist who he's an atheist, but he'd be the most religious atheist I know. He's the most religious person I know because he's very, very narrow in his worldview. He's like, this is the right way, and he's on a crusade. He's not on a crusade for a god, but for an ideology. And I think that a lot of these people, if there wasn't for a religion, they'll cling on to another idea, which gives them that sort of security, that sort of framework.
Okay, Arash, welcome to the Jinn and Tonic show. If anybody else wants to join, I'm still leaving it open. It's still going to be open another half an hour. You just go to you go to YouTube, you go to the Jinn and Tonic show, and then there you click on the About, and then in the About you have a thing called Live Link, and you click on that, and you will then see the comments, and you can just, in the comments, you will see a link to the show. If you click onto the link, you will automatically connect here into the panel, into the show, and you can then comment, ask, or suggest, which has just happened to Arash, who magic has it that he just joined us. Welcome, Arash. What can we do for you? You need to mute your mic in the middle, on the top.
He has written something. I didn't know we could join the hangout.
Yeah, but you joined, and now you can, if you unmute your microphone, then you can talk and say something, or you don't want to, or you just want to hang out. then he might just want to hang out. Okay.
You just click it on the link by mistake, I think.
Then you can remove yourself by clicking onto the red telephone if you want to. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. We're talking, well, I don't know why we actually started on this. I think because it was my last item on the news that we got stuck on apologists. Yeah, that somebody is, I mean, a lot of people are sending me links on Facebook to watch their videos. And then, you know, I sometimes get physically ill after watching like 3 or 4 of them. Because, you know, sometimes you're sitting in a hotel and in a city where you don't know anybody, and then you just spend time, you know, doing things like that. But then I get physically ill, and I go downstairs and I go out, go for a walk, go look around, and have a beer somewhere, because it's so terrible to see how limited the people are and how sick they are when they become fundamentalists. So this is quite awful when I think about this. And then, of course, people say, yeah, what do you think about this? Why don't you comment? This is why I've started making now this video series on apologists. And it doesn't matter whether I'm talking about this woman who's writing a blog on this and who doesn't understand what she's saying in her own blog. I have this a lot. It's a lot of copy-paste. People just take stuff from Harun Yahya. This is what I find in the forums, where people say, Harun Yahya, they copy-paste and then just say, this is what Islam is. And then I think, oh my goodness, is that how poorly educated they are, that they need to hide behind the stuff that somebody else writes without understanding it properly? This is so funny. What are your experiences with talking and debating? And has anybody been on a forum? On a Muslim forum?
I have, but it was mostly... like some of it was to watch arguments, like to actually have genuine arguments, but it was always behind, once again, I'm a shit stirrer, something that was slightly trolly. So for example, I think, which forum was it? I forget what it was called. Well, it was a really big one too. Anyway, yeah. I did have a few.
Umar or Sunni or one of those.
Oh yeah, Umara or something like that. Anyway. Yeah, I initially went on there under the guise of a teenager who wanted to go out with a Muslim girl, and he was an atheist.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, what do I need to do to get in her pants? Was pretty much my initial post. So I did have other things like debating and stuff, but the initial post was, what do I need to do to get in? Yeah,
I think Muslim forum and said, "Listen, you guys are Muslim. How do I get into her pants?"
Yeah, pretty much. It was gentler than that. It was like, hey, I'm a teenage atheist, I'm a guy. There's this beautiful Persian chick, blah 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 blah. I really like it. So what do I need to do to get the hookup? And that sort of stuff. Wow, it was sort of like, you need to find the truth, young man. Oh.
Oh, that's the classic.
Well, it's easy. Just do the shahada and you're in her pants.
No, I've had lots of Muslim girlfriends. I mean, they're just normal girls like everyone else. There's no difference.
But accepting that isn't good for trolling.
Yeah, but that's a classic. I mean, that's a brilliant idea. I mean, yes, you could enact that or act that out in a video. This would be classic. This would become an instant hit.
Yeah, because like a lot of the people who frequent the forum, they are very sort of, if you're a Muslim, you exclusively date and marry other Muslims. But so when I put that up, I was like, yeah, let's watch the responses, and they were brilliant. They were beautiful. I recommend it to anyone.
You are evil.
Well, that's why I've got the big demonic face for an avatar.
It suits you. Oh, that's a classic. That's a good
but after a time, it gets annoying and lame and boring, not?
What, the avatar?
Yeah, it does. That's why I'm not still on there, of course.
I mean, you'll read arguments for the first time, the second time, okay. After the third time, it gets really boring for me personally. If it's the same argument.
Yeah. Okay, but what I found telling is that I was banned from the Sunni forum for quoting Sahih Bukhari.
Was it clear that you are an atheist before, or?
Yeah. Oh no, I make that very clear. I mean, I put that into my registration. Okay. I go there as Stopspamming, so everybody knows exactly who I am, and I click non-believer, atheist, or whatever. If you enter it, I enter it. No, I'm very open about that because I don't hide behind that. No, because people were saying, yeah, but Muhammad is a role model. And then I said, no, he instructed his people on how to enjoy an orgasm when raping female captives. And they said, no, Muhammad would never do that. So I quoted Sahih Bukhari, and the guy said, look, this guy is really terrible. He's now damaging and blaspheming our beloved prophet. Please ban him. Boof, I was gone.
Yeah, but that's normal. If you would be a Muslim, you can quote even the worst hadiths and the worst...
But then the interesting part is that then... Okay, I laughed it off, but I was having so much fun discussing this with people, and I was sort of, like checking what are the boundaries and experimenting with this. What do you say? What can you say? What do people know? To what level are they prepared to go? So then I went to the Ummah forum, and then I was banned there. Then I went to the next one, and then the funny thing is, the forum I liked the most is the Quranist forum, where they have the Quran only, the free minds, where they are being perceived as the outliers, the way out weirdos of Islam, and that is the forum, the people with the attitude that I could most relate to, who did not have the Sunnah, who did not have the Sirah, the biographies. And they said, no, the Quran is enough. I mean, they need to do all sorts of things to reinterpret the Quran to make it fit, to find prayers in the Quran, to find all these things in the Quran. But I think it is the most honest approach, that you don't go and you say, well, actually, I need Muhammad in my life and things like that. No, they are saying, you can get everything from the Quran, you don't need the Sunnah. And this, I think, is it was the most honest. I mean, you have idiots there as well, but that was.
What do they say about the Shahada? I mean, it's clearly talking about Muhammad. So what?
No, they don't have this. No, they say this is a pagan ritual.
Oh, cool. And the Hajj?
The Hajj is in the Quran. The Hajj they do, yes.
Yeah, but it's not mentioned how and what and we.
No. You see, this is exactly what I'm saying. There, you need to jump through some hoops to get it right. I mean, it doesn't mention. I mean, the Quran doesn't say. Like, if I created people to worship me, and I want them to worship me by praying 5 times a day. It doesn't say anything like that. It says make provision for prayer. It doesn't say pray. And this is the funny thing. The Quran nowhere says that you need to pray, that you need to do certain things. It just says make provision for prayers, and this is what is being interpreted as you need to pray. It doesn't say anywhere you need to pray 5 times. It's interpreted afterwards that you need to pray 5 times. And this is exactly what they are doing. They just interpret it.
Yeah, okay, but in the case now on the Hajj, how do they do that? Do you have any information?
No, I don't know from the top. I've never asked about Hajj. No,
okay.
The topic never came up. It's funny that most of the time it was science. This is what drove them. So many times they said, well, and there was one idiot, and he went all over the internet with his funny idea, and he's a South African, Dawah, who said that, yeah, the Quran very clearly refers to the samawat and the blah, 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 blah. Now, I asked him, okay, what is samawat? He says, well, no, you can't translate it. This is Arabic. You have to just know it. I said, no. We're on an English-speaking forum. People are speaking English. You can't hide behind samawat. It means heavens. Samawat is heaven, and samawat is the plural, which is heavens. So if you're talking about heavens, why are you telling me this means universe? And here it means sky, and here it means firmament, and here it means something else. What makes you now decide that this now means universe? And he couldn't answer that, so he kept on hiding behind it. So you have like idiots there as well. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But the thing is that in general, if they didn't know something, like they will say, I asked them, where did the Quran come from? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know exactly how the Quran suddenly came up, or I mean, they love this, popped into existence. I get sick when I hear this expression, but this is what they use all the time. We don't know when the Quran, how and when and They're honest, and they say, well, we don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I appreciate this the most out of all the different flavors of Islam that I've come across. Arash, have you made any inroads? Sorry, Sam, would you still have something?
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, a lot of my a lot of the very liberal Muslims I know, they identify as Quranists as well. It seems to be like,
really?
yeah, it seems to be like, it seems to be the equivalent of you know the Christians who say, I'm not of any denominations, I'm just a Christian, or I'm just a child of Christ, something like that. Well, it's sort of similar. I'm not of any of those stripes. I'm just a Quranist. I just believe what's in the Quran. They don't, but you know, that's what they say. It's sort of overtaking Sufi in terms of liberal, in terms of a label for liberal Muslims.
Yeah, no, I suppose it's the way to go.
Lucky Klingshaw is not here because you said Sufi and liberalism. And
yeah, but I'm talking.
He would climb down your throat immediately.
Yeah, I'm talking about. Okay, fine. If Klingshaw, you're hearing this, I'm talking about the Sufi as in the idea that everyone has of the mystic sort of
the Sufis today. Just make it simple. The Sufis today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's a lot of misconceptions. Okay, we've got a question by James Dean. I thought he was dead. Anyway, probably pointless putting questions here. So if it's probably pointless, why put a question there? Anyway, but most Muslim apologists, such as Dawood, I wouldn't consider him, well, maybe he is, I don't know, are not sophisticated. It would be interesting to get some opinions. Who can argue, such as Reza Aslan. He's Reza is an arsehole. He's a total idiot. He's a very accomplished writer. Okay, great, yeah. Who argues that Islam critics lack knowledge and misunderstand. Yeah, of course, that's what everybody says. Muhammad got rid of slavery. That's what he says. Aisha was not 9, of course not. Islam is misunderstood, of course, yes. Muslim extremists act for political personal reasons, not so much as Bible, yeah, of course. And religion are more or less the same. Yes, this is why. Okay, thank God I said it in the beginning before reading the rest. Yes, that's why I say he's a total asshole. None of that is true. Well, I mean, I have a problem, all right?
Where did you read that?
I'm torn in the comments. Sometimes, I noticed this. Sometimes you cannot see the comments. Like, sometimes I will not see all comments, and then somebody says, yeah, but there was this. And then Klingshaw will say, we have a question. Huh? I don't see that. I refresh and it doesn't come up. Anyway, I'm torn, all right? Because there's 3 ways of looking at Islam and the Sunnah, all right? The first way is you take the standard narrative. You take the traditional Arabic Sunnah mythology where there was a guy who was a camel herder who was sitting in a cave meditating. An angel came, and then woof, everything happened. All right, and then it took 23 years for the Quran to be revealed, sentence by sentence by sentence, and then they mulled over this, and then they started writing it down, and then 200 years later, the biography came around. 300 years later, the Hadiths were compiled. The standard narrative. Then you have like an in between the Quranist only version where you say, well, we don't know where the Quran actually came from. We don't know when it was revealed, to whom, by whom, and how. The Quran is just something that is there. We need to accept it. We are lucky that we have it because it gives us guidance. It gives us a purpose. It tells us what we're supposed to do. And then you have what I call the historical version, or the more likely version, that the Quran has a mere functional value, that somebody came up with it to control the people using religious aspects and mythology and the threat of hell and the reward aspect of heaven. So that this is completely man-made, and it was not in Mecca either, and blah, blah, blah. So you have these 3 different versions or 3 different perspectives of looking at Islam and the Sunnah. So what I do is I go with the standard narrative in order to have a basis for a discussion. Because if I say Muhammad didn't exist because there's no evidence that Muhammad actually existed the way that he's described in the Sunnah, it doesn't make sense. But I will just go with it so that I have a basis. Otherwise, I'm just going to say, well, God doesn't exist, Muhammad doesn't exist, so we don't even need to talk. Cheers, bye-bye. So I accept the standard narrative, and I say, well, Muhammad actually existed. He was a camel herder and caravan trader, blah, 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 who later became a prophet, who later became a pirate, who then became a warlord, all right? So just to clarify my position on this. So somebody is saying Muhammad got rid of slavery. Then I need to say, okay, I believe the standard narrative that Muhammad existed and he did not get rid of slavery. He did the opposite. He actually fine-tuned it. And Aisha Aisha did not really exist, but of course she existed if you accept that Muhammad existed. So Aisha is just this figure because they needed a female heroine, but she had to be a lot younger and she had to be excused for her naivety and things like that. So this is the way that it does. And what Reza Aslan does is says he accepts everything and then he says, I need to whitewash this. I need to make it all cozy and nice so that it fits into the 21st century. So he's being incredibly dishonest by saying, well, I've got all these PhDs. I mean, in religion, what is a PhD in fucking religion? That's nothing.
Hi.
And then he goes and says, this is the way.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes.
Oh,
Hi.
Yes.
Sorry. Actually, on Reza Aslan, I actually follow him a lot. And,
okay, then you talk about this and I can go get a coffee.
Okay, really quickly. I actually hate him a lot. He's Orion, if you know, and I actually think that he knows all the lies that he's saying, but he's only doing this for money, because I've seen interviews with him where it's very obvious that he knows exactly where the history of all this comes from. I mean, if someone's has a PhD in history of religion, then you know that he knows that these are all related, that there's no way Muhammad just kind of came up with all this. God didn't just put everything down at once. Well, how does he not know?
To be fair, can I jump in here? To be fair to him, he said in his book, I don't know the English title, I think God is the only God, blah, blah, blah. In his book, he's quite honest about how the history is. He is honest about the Muhammad didn't exist probably, but Islam is true. So there he isn't honest. He somehow just jumps from one side to the other side, from honesty to complete asshole-ish things. It's interesting how he acts. Yes. Go on. Sorry. You are muted now.
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you hear us? If you can, just pop the message in the comment in the little chat there, because we're not hearing anything.
He must hear us. I mean, he stopped. He stopped talking, so he must hear us.
I don't know, maybe about Aslan? I sort of agree with him. He is. I find his he knows the historicity of it, I reckon, but he is dishonest in this portrayal to make it seem a lot more cozy, a lot more nicer, a lot more PG-13 sort of stuff. But I think it comes back to what I said before. I intellectually I don't respect that at all. That's that he does lie. And like I by lie I mean intentionally deceive. But in terms of like socially, he's a wishy-washy guy. If his ideas of Islam that it's nice and peaceful and blah blah blah, if that's sort of believed by a lot of Muslims I have to interact with and not argue about facts, and I'm sort of alright. I'm pragmatic that way.
Yeah, I think the problem with him is because he is a professional Muslim. That's the word for him. He's a professional Muslim. He wants to make money out of it. So he talks anything he wants. He does anything he wants just to show what Islam is in his mind, But that's strange. That's strange about him. He even sees facts in history that he doesn't deny. But on the other hand, he jumps around and say it is fact that Muhammad didn't exist, but he revealed the Quran for the humans. That's so strange.
We're joined by Hoxie. Let's just see it. Well, hello, welcome, Hoxie.
Oh, hello.
Do you want to contribute to this topic, or do you want to let us finish? Or
the position of Reza Aslan is that he's an apologist who claims that all religions are equal. That I disagree on that because
that's right. Sorry that I jumped over again in the interview with Cenk Uygur in the Young Turks. Cenk asked him just quite direct, why then Islam? If it's so, why you take Islam? He couldn't answer. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, because he probably was indoctrinated by his parents, and he fear of that his parents.
I don't think that's the case. I think because he's a professional Muslim and they want to make money, and that's his genre. He knows more about Islam than anything else. And
he's just.
I take back what I.
I would agree with that. I think
he's probably you would say the Muslim version of Ray Comfort.
Actually, I'll take back what I said earlier in the show. Reza Aslan is the Muslim Joel Osteen. Because Joel Osteen is a nice all smile sort of preacher who makes a lot of money. You should see his house. Google Joel Osteen's house, everybody.
Is that the guy with the 9 houses with his own private jet and all this stuff?
He's the one with the creepy freaking smile. Hang on, let me look at.
I don't know that. I just saw somebody who somebody exposed him and said this is all the property that he has and this is what you are actually paying for and blah blah blah. And so, but there's a lot of those. So I don't know. Ray Comfort, yeah. No, sorry, we all got that. I'm intrigued by your logo. Is that the picture of him? I'm intrigued by your logo. Is the Hoxie? Is that? I mean, I recognize the Allah, but what is all the other stuff in the background on the left?
It's the Nazi flag without the swastika.
That's not nice.
I'm an Islamophobic and a racist.
Now I'm talking about the calligraphy on the left. What does that mean?
I don't know. I just found it on the internet. I've seen that before, but I don't know what it means.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's trying to make she's trying to make the Allah look like this, like in place of a swastika. So yeah.
You're right.
I just see the
Shahada sign. Because it looks like Muhammad is in there. I don't know Arabic, but I think it could be the Shahada.
I can actually read. I think it is the Shahada actually because it's so small. Yeah, it says La. But then it says like it's got a D in there, and I don't really see Muhammad, you know.
Okay, no, I thought there was some significance to it, that it was some I don't know, calligraphic representation of something. But I like this sign, this no entry. No, God, these were British. I've got Quackwick saying yes. Zoroastrian. This is correct. Zoroastrians have this thing. That they pray 5 times, yes. Not all of them, because the funny thing in Zoroastrianism is also that they have different groups and different texts that they adhere to. So yes, it is in the text, but not every Zoroastrian will do this.
I like the Zoroastrian in the main talking from them. Good thinking, good speaking, and good. What's the English word?
Good thoughts, good words, and good deeds.
Deeds, all right. Yeah.
No, that was the Boy Scouts.
No, it's from Zoroastrians. Maybe the Boy Scouts copied from Zoroastrians. Who knows?
No, come on. This is. I mean, I don't. This is always what I say. Yes, it might be in a religion, but I don't need a religion to know this. So yeah.
Who's your favorite Muslim apologist?
My favorite Muslim apologist is Zakir Naik.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so pathetic. He's so stupid. He's so unbelievably ridiculously inept and wow.
2 per 2 gets one says 2 per 2 get 3, another says 2 per 2 get 4. Who are you gonna say is right?
Now you're racist.
Well, I mean, who started this with the coconut?
Who started what?
Coconut? What coconut?
Somebody.
Coconut? What?
Yeah, somebody called. No, there was a debate between Hamza and Arif. Hamza made him a coconut cake, where a coconut, because it's brown on the outside and white on the inside, is a racial insult.
Isn't it after it becomes brown outside because it was taken out? Yeah.
I think in America we call that an Oreo.
That's a biscuit. That's with chocolate.
I mean,
And
yeah,
it's
it's still
a
brown
disgusting
and
biscuit at that.
And on the Oreo, you already can see the inside, so it's not quite similar.
Anyway, so it's considered. I didn't even know that. All right, because in South Africa we have coconuts, but I've never heard anybody refer to a coconut as an insult or something, just because it's dark on the outside and white on the inside. Because
So
you do have a lot of people like that who have this stance that I'm actually a white when they're not. But well,
that's okay. That's weird. So what's a lamington? Because a lamington's like sponge cake covered in chocolate. So it's dark on the it's dark on the outside, light on the inside, sprinkled with coconut, which is also dark on the outside and light on the inside. It's practically racist.
No, that's a representative of LGBT or something. But, by the way, what is LGBTQ?
Queer. The Q is queer. I think the full acronym. Wait, let me look it up. LGBT.
You have the G for gay, so why would you have the Q for queer?
It's like
I don't know.
Everything else. It's quasi everything else.
Quasi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So any.
I don't know, I just made this up. Maybe not.
It would make sense because then it's like a gender, whatever, unspecified.
Yeah. Well, if you want to know the full full acronym that I'm aware of, which always makes me giggle, LGBTQQIIAA, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, questioning, intersex, intergender, asexual, and allies.
Actually, speaking.
Why not a big question mark?
You guys know what the best country, heaven for sex change in the Middle East is right now?
No.
No.
It's actually Iran, if you can believe this.
Oh my God, really?
If you look it up right now, because Khomeini, they asked them, they said, what do you think about sex change? And he says, being gay is punishable by death, but there's nothing in the Quran that says you can't have a sex change. And if you have a sex change, then there's like a whole system, and it's very easy, it's cheap. They give them new ID cards, everything is fine, and apparently it's heaven in the Middle East for this kind of stuff.
My goodness.
Wow, so some of those beautiful Persian girls are beautiful Persian boys.
This is going to be like the next Bangkok.
But isn't it a little bit too strange even for Islam to say for Rouhani, it is nothing written in the Quran. I mean, God made you a boy or a girl. Even in Quran, some verses talk about He knows only what's in the womb, blah blah blah. So now the human changes. So Ron is, I think, a little bit deceiving here and try to make money out of it.
This wasn't
for
Rouhani.
Sex change tourism.
This was Khomeini, not Rouhani. This is Khomeini 35 years ago. This is actually even more surprising. If Rouhani says something, you would say he's lying.
Right.
This is Khomeini 35 years ago. I don't know how they got him to say such a thing, but apparently it's okay now.
Wow. So yeah.
Strange.
But it's weird because. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say maybe the justification from this is not going to be very trans friendly. Actually, this is gonna be pretty awful. But maybe their justifications, not my views, are well, I'm not actually getting a sex change. This is for Ike. Maybe it's more, I'm not actually getting a sex change. I'm still this, but with different genitals, so it's still heterosexual or something like that. I don't know. How would you do?
Well, I mean, the creator fucked up right from the beginning. I mean, if somebody is gay, this is a condition, all right? And then this is something that you can fix. So it means that this is like an illness which has been imposed on you by your creator. So it's another test. So if you wiggle out of your test by saying, all right, then I'll have a sex change, then yes, in the womb you were this, so all the conditions of the Quran are met. But 20 years later, you decide that you are going to be a woman. There you go.
Okay, I have a question. Since we say that homosexuality is natural because it exists in the other realm of, other species, but what about religion? Is that natural or unnatural?
Religion, I would say, religion, as in, like, obviously other animals don't have, like, any evidence of our sort of views, but I think it's an extension. It is a type of social construct, and social constructs are an extension of the instincts of human species, of social species, sorry. So as humans, as a social species, this is one of our constructs, religion. And I guess in that sort of way, it's sort of natural.
And I totally disagree. I say we don't need it, even though we heard today that some assholes will behave like assholes if there were no religion. But I don't think so. I think this would be replaced by the normal morality. So I think we don't need religions. It's a convention. People agree we don't know where lightning comes from. So let's say a god did it. Yes, that makes sense. A god did it. So if we behave and everything is fine, then we don't get lightning. And lo and behold, there we go. So if we get lightning, we get punished by somebody for something. So the same way as we don't really need clothes, it's a convention that we say we need to cover our genitals. Why do we need to cover our genitals? We don't know. We just decided that we do. This is just a convention.
Yeah, but don't forget that systems of ethics, so ethical methodologies and our moral codes, those are also social conventions. So
exactly.
You've swapped out one social convention for another social convention.
Exactly.
And also that doesn't really say much about is it natural. He asked if religion is natural, and all the different ideological.
This is social convention. I thought that is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but social conventions, I think, are natural.
Okay. We are social creatures, so that I think religion somehow has a naturality in it. It's the same with Richard Dawkins, who made his documentary, and he interviewed a psychologist, I think, and she admit, yes, after my experiments with children, humans have in the early years naturally religious thought in their mind.
No, I think you're mixing things up there.
No, I'm pretty sure not.
Have you guys heard about the God helmet?
The God helmet.
What? Sorry?
The God helmet. Oh, if you've never seen this, you need to look this up right now.
Yeah, they can induce it. They just play some electric. I don't know. They induce some current, and then you automatically have these spiritual, meditative sine waves in your brain.
Oh, the current helmet. Yes, I know what that is. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess you could actually buy this on eBay, I think, for some amount. Anyway, but what I'm thinking is, if this is in your head, and if they can, put some electrode next to your head and make you have these experiences, so this obviously shows that this is in our biology to look at something and feel this spirituality. Because when they were talking about the experiences that they had, they all said that they saw some kind of being that they felt very comfortable next to. Now, everything that comes to my head is because of evolutionary reasons. Our brain makes this, this comes up for whatever evolutionary reason. And so maybe, you could say this is natural, and you know, that's what is resulted from that is religion, you know. So maybe even some animals could maybe potentially show this, because they've seen our burying, you know, oldest humans, like, you know, the what's the, in Europe it was the like, it's not Australopithecus, it's the one before that. They were doing burials, which is actually pretty amazing, because these guys are a species before us, and they are still doing burials. So
well, we know of some other quasi-sentient. I'm not quite sure how sentient they've been found. Some of these, but like for example, elephants will come back to to where ancestors have died and move around the bones. We're not quite sure what their significance is, but yeah, you have elephants moving around, playing around with the bones of dead elephants in particular. So it's like as an extended mourning process. So we don't know how far these.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about elephants.
So we don't know, like, say, how abstract those thoughts can be. Awesome pick there, Hog.
No,
I'm not sure how you guys change your picture, because I changed my picture for the actual account, but it's not being changed.
Here on the Hangout, we don't see any picture for you, Arash, but on the stream and YouTube itself, we see some building, some ceiling, things like that. Is that right?
Yeah, the ceiling is right, but I can't get it to show here for some reason.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The people see it on YouTube, if it's important for you.
Yeah,
okay, guys, we've measured 2 hours. Are there any important things you still want to say? Otherwise, we'll come to the closing remarks. Okay, that's it. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the Hadith of the week, which has been kindly provided by Allah Sakul, and then everybody can have a quick closing remark, and then we'll wrap it up. So this is now courtesy of Mr. Ibn bin Malik, Anas bin Malik, and it's about the hijab, because the verse, not just the saying of Muhammad, but this is now the verse in the Quran of al-hijab, the veiling of the woman, was revealed in connection with Zainab bin Yash, on the day of her marriage with him. The Prophet gave a wedding banquet with bread and meat, and she used to boast before other wives of the Prophet and used to say, Allah married me to the Prophet in the heavens. So there's 2 pieces of information here, and for me the one is that there used to be some paragraph or sentence or something in the Quran which regulated the hijab, the veiling of the woman, which currently does not exist, even though many Muslims say or believe or wish or whatever, it does. Any comments on this? Well, let's start with you. Let's start from what I see from the left. Arash, why don't you give your closing remarks, and then we'll just end it here. Any comment on this hadith or anything on apologetics that we learned today?
I think that this episode was interesting, and especially because this is my first time coming here. But I think maybe next time we could work more on history behind maybe even pre-Islamic history, to see where this all came from, because obviously it didn't just spark up from nothing, right?
We've done this so many times, but
I know
we can repeat this.
I've been actually listening to a lot of these ones, but there's a lot of details that I maybe would be nice to go into again, but sure. Okay.
Any last comments from... Hogs left us. And Salamut, any last comments?
If ever you're on a Islamic forum, be controversial, be kind, and be controversial, because it's hilarious.
Well, I don't know if I should actually say this, because I have been told on Thursday that I'm supposed to go on the LDM show next Thursday. So I'm going to be going into a conversation with several Muslims who want to know what an atheist is, even though I've explained it millions and millions and millions of times. But they want to know all about the worldview of atheism. My goodness. Anyway,
anything. Yeah, so the worldview, all the worldviews of things that could be theists and aren't. Wow, that's pretty vast.
Isn't it just? Yes. Anyway, but this is what. Yeah. Okay, Ike.
Nothing from me. Just be honest in life, and no matter what the religion you are.
As long as you're honest, yeah. That excludes every single religion. Okay, guys, stay honest, stay good, keep it safe, and we'll see you next week on the Jinn and Tonic Show.